my channel. So today we're going to talk about a series that I DNF'd in 2024, and we're going to go over 3 series that I DNF'd, and 2 of those series is by the same author. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start off with the 2 author series that I DNF'd. And just a disclaimer, nothing against the author. It's just that Calliope and I, we just could not finish him. We just were like, had to get Calliope together. So anyway, it's just that Calliope and I just could not finish it. And I think a lot of it has to do with the simple fact that the series is long, but also my personality and Calliope's personality were very similar. And when I start getting irritated with a character, or I'm just kind of like over the storyline, I'm like, okay, it's time to move on. Especially when all the goodness has happened, and then I'm like, why are we focusing on this person, or why are we going to this other scene? So Calliope basically was like, I can't do it anymore, and she just kind of gave up, and I was with her. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the first series, and this is a series that a lot of people love dearly, and that series is ACOTAR. And okay, let me just say this. I loved, look. I loved this series. It was so good. Of course, I was Team Tamlin, like everybody was in the first like book and a half. Actually, no. I was Team Tamlin in the first book. Really, the first half of the book. Because when they got to the mountain, anyway, but yes, I love this series. Fair, she's a baddie. She's a baddie. I love Fair. And Rysand, he is the man of my dreams, of my dark dreams. And I love this series. Now, what I didn't love about this series is Fair's sisters. She Nesta. Elaine, she just was not present. And I don't think she made the situation better, because she's just frail or acts frail. I don't know. I just wasn't really feeling Elaine, but I liked her better than I liked Nesta. Nesta was one of those people that her character reminded me of a lot of people that I have known in my past life. And now that I'm reincarnated, I couldn't get with her at all. And so I stopped reading ACOTAR after A Court of Frost and Starlight. This was I read this book in like maybe 3 hours. And I think this was the book, it was just a wrap up affair in Rysand's story. And I was kind of wrapped up with it as well. But then when we got into A Court of Silver Flames, which was Nesta's story, I really wasn't interested in reading it. I really wasn't interested in her story. I just was no longer interested in, honestly, this world. Even though I am Night Court to the day I die, I just didn't want Nesta to be a part of that. And she was. And so I still haven't read it. I still honestly, I genuinely do not have a desire to read this, but everybody that I know that has read this entire series, they're like, you need to read it. We get it about Nesta, but it's really, really good. She becomes better. She gets help. And I'm like, I'm all for it. Like, she was mean before all of this stuff happened. She was mean before she went into Prithian. And so for me, I'm just like, she just got meaner, and I just can't deal with it. So yeah, I still don't really have a desire to read this, but this is what Calliope and I have done. We have ordered the book through my job's library, ordered the ebook. We're waiting for it to be delivered. And as soon as it's delivered, Calliope and I are going to give it a go. We're going to read it. We're going to get into it, get back into that world of Prythian, Valeris, Night Court, all that jazz, and see what the hype is about. But I'm just going to let y'all know I am not in any rush by any means. I'm just not in a rush to read it. I have no interest in it. But I think Sarah J. Maas is a wonderful writer. She's great. She's a great author. I just, I have beef with Nesta, and I don't want her storyline. Okay, so moving on to the next series. So this is another very, very popular series. Like I said, it's by the same author. Two of the series I DNF'd is by the same author. So this is, and I'm pretty sure you guys can guess what the series is, but it is the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. And, one moment. This thickums. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah, I DNF'd this. And I have a good reason. Or maybe I have a good reason on why I DNF'd this series. Give me a second. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. So I read up until, this is how much I've read. These are all the books that I read. So I read a good 5 books in this series. And it was really good. Actually, you can say 6. Because I just got done reading Assassin's Blade. Don't talk about me. I know I'm late to the game on that one. My coworker, she's already talked about me. But without actually talking about me to my face. But anyway. Yeah, so I have read a pretty good chunk of this series, and it was good. It wasn't until, I'm going to show you, it wasn't until we got to Crown of Midnight and Empire of Storms where I started. It was these 2 books. It was these 2 books, the 2 purple books, that ripped me to the point where I was like, I'm getting over it. Selena, Aileen, I'm getting over it. Like, either y'all are gonna stand with her or you're not. Either you're gonna help her move the kingdom forward or you're not. Like, are we gonna restore magic all through the lands or we're not? Like, that's kind of where I was getting at. And then Chal or Kale or whatever his name is, however you pronounce it, I don't have the energy or the time to look to see how you pronounce it. He was getting on my nerves really bad, like really bad. He is just somebody that reminds me, again, his character. I have problems. His character reminds me, like, who do I surround myself with? Because clearly, but his character reminds me of some people that I had met in my past life, and I don't like him. I have like serious beef with him. And the fact that he made Selena out to be like an enemy of the kingdom or whatever, and doesn't even take in consideration what she's been through, what she's currently going through, and what she has to do in order for her to just somewhat feel safe, all the while exacting revenge on her family and her kingdom and all the people that have been wronged in life. He's a selfish bastard. And yeah, he's a selfish bastard. And so I can't get with him. And so I stopped reading the series when we got to here, Tower of Dawn, when it really started focusing on his story, his journey, or whatever. Like, I think I got to page, I only got to chapter 4. I don't think I ventured further into the story. I only got to chapter 4. And that's just because I gave it a shot. Also, my coworker, she told me to tandem read Tower of Dawn and Kingdom of Ash because she said that they happen at the same time and that it would make sense. But I'm not gonna lie, that was a lot. So as I was reading, I don't even remember how I was trying to read it. I think I was probably, the logical thing would be to read chapter 1 and then read chapter 1 in the next book. But me not being a sensible person sometimes probably didn't do that. I just remember I just was feeling overwhelmed, and then his character, I was not here for it. And then him trying to regain, what was his problem? Oh, he couldn't walk. I didn't care about that. Because that's just how much of him as a character that I disliked him. And I'm normally, listen guys, I'm not that mean. Like, I'm not mean like that. And I'm just not mean like that. I would never say that about a real person. But I don't care about him or his ailments. So, yeah, Throne of Glass series, I had DNF'd it. And unlike the ACOTAR series, where I have no desire to pick that series back up and read the last book, I actually do want to finish Throne of Glass. I just don't know when I'll have the mental capacity to put aside my personal feelings for the greater good. And that's just because, one, these are some really thick books. Like, this, how many pages is this? This is 980 pages, just this book alone, without the author's note. 980 pages. And then this book, 660 pages, and that's without the acknowledgments or the author's note. And so these are some thickums. These are some thick books. These are thick. And I think I will have to solicit Calliope. I will need her services in order to read these books because I'm intimidated. I'm intimidated by this. And so I don't know if this is something that I will want to venture down. This is not a journey. The journey is not the destination on this one. I won't be making that. So I definitely want to finish this series, but I will probably be doing it on my Kindle. Okay, so the next series that I DNF'd is a real good one. Like in the middle of last year, I really wanted to get back into urban fiction, and okay, sorry, I needed this. So last year, in the middle of last year, I really wanted to get back into urban fiction, and I picked up the Diva series by Denisha Diamond and Baby at 8. That was good. I mean, ooh, you're going to get, there is a level of satisfaction that you are going to get when you're reading urban fiction, because that street lit it's just, it gives. And Denisha did not disappoint. And that's something else that I really like about urban fiction is if you want to pick up a really good Black author, that is the genre that you're going to find them in. Now, I like to venture out into other genres. My favorite genres are romance and fantasy. And I also like historical fiction and historical fantasy. And so I'm going to find Black authors in all of those genres, but you are really going to find the most Black authors in urban fiction. And I guess fortunately and unfortunately, that's just the way it is right now. But that's another reason why I pick up urban fiction, because it gives me what I want and what I need. I guess I just like toxicity. Okay, so this series was a 6-book series. I stopped reading it on book 3 because it was intense. So the setting on is in Memphis, Tennessee, and if y'all know anything about Memphis, I'm gonna say this: Denisha depicted the city very, very well. It really set the tone for the storyline that she had in her book. And I will also say this: the 4 main, like, every book focused on different women, but and the lead character was always a woman, and the background character was always some man, which I loved. I love a good female lead. And they was bad. They bad. And I was just sucked in. Like, the series had me in a chokehold. Like, I put the book down. I literally read all 3 books probably within a week, which it takes me about a week to read. If the book is good enough, it takes me about a week to read. But that book had me, and I read this series in the summertime, in June, early June. And so, yeah, but after book 3, I just could not. I still want to finish the series, because I still think about those 3 books. I still think about it, because I'm like, dang, Lachelle, she's cold. How you do your sister like that? Oh, and then another thing about that series is it was so realistic. Like, a lot of the stories, like the characters and what they went through, it's things that you hear about every day. And it's not just on the news. It's things that you hear about from your friends, from your friends' friends, from your family members. And so the story focuses around 3 to 4 women, but the 2 main characters, they're sisters. One, her name is Lachelle, and the other one is Tashira. And they have had such a really rough upbringing, And it got to the point where Lachelle, she went down a dark path, and Tashira did not go down that dark path. She was actually doing very well for herself. She had a foster family that loved her. It was just like she had a better life. And Lachelle, being the vindictive woman she is, was very jealous of her sister, because Lachelle basically was like, being an older sibling, but you protect your younger sibling from, you try to protect your younger sibling from the world. You try to keep their innocence as long as possible, and that was what Lachelle was doing in their pretty crappy circumstances that life has just, given them growing up. And so, because of how Lachelle's life turned out and how she's had to hustle and do this and do that in order for her to survive, and Tashira, on the other hand, didn't have to do that. She had support, and when she didn't have support from her foster family, her sister, Lachelle, was the one that was making sure she was living a comfy life while she wasn't. And so there's a lot of trauma, a lot of sibling rivalry, a lot of built up animosity over the years, and I absolutely was here for it, because it just made, I don't know, y'all have to read the series. It's so good. Okay, so I'm gonna go into the book. So, all right, so book 1 was called Hustlin' Divas, and this one is pretty much like an opener, but I mean, when I tell you, it drags you in, like you're hooked on the first page. And I love a good book that hooks me on the first page, because I'm more than likely not going to DNF it. But it talks about the women that literally that's going to carry the series along. So it talks about Lachelle, and then it talks about her boyfriend, Python. And it kind of opens up to Python not being so faithful to Lachelle. But when you're reading stories like this, that's kind of the common theme. And it's like really messed up in the very beginning, but it's like, oh, what happened next? Why would he do that? Who was she to, it was good. It was good. So so Hustle and Divas is the first book. And then the second book is Street Divas. And now this is where it gets real nitty, real gritty. I mean, the first book was really gritty. But the second book really just kind of like, I don't know. It just like slaps it down. It just gets it just makes everything from the first book make sense in the second book. And then when the new stuff starts happening in the second book, you're like, oh my God. And then the third book, which is the book that I finished completely, but was like, I can't move on, was Gangsta Divas. And that's when these other characters start coming into the book. And they're even like deadlier and crazier than the other characters in the other two books. And so one of the characters in the first two books, she is, and it's about gang life too. I guess I should have said that, but it's about gangs and everything like that. But one of the characters in the book, and this is gonna sound so crazy, but I love her. But her like street name is Lucifer, because she really is about that life. And anybody that's named is Lucifer, street, real name, whatever, I'm intrigued by you. And I want to know more of your story. And that's kind of where, like, in the second and the third book, we kind of learn a little bit more about Lucifer and why she became Lucifer. And the story behind that, which is really cute in a messed up kind of way. But, yeah, so those are the three books I read. After Gangsta Divas, I was like, I can't take it anymore. Like, it was becoming, the scenes in the books were becoming more vivid. I was like, when I say I was seriously relating to these characters, I was like, oh my gosh, I know somebody who's been through that. Oh my gosh, I saw that on Fox Channel 4 News or whatever. It was becoming one of those things. And then it was becoming sad. And like the things that were happening. Oh, and then there was this one scene with this girl, Kiana, and Python's cousin. When I say mentally, I was MF'd. Mind. And I still think about that scene and how messed up that chapter was, because and it was sick too. It was like sickening, but it was like sickeningly good. Ugh.
I am sick. I am sick of your shit. And when I'm not sick, I'm tired.
That's the toxic trait in me. But yeah, so the series was really, really good, but I had to DNF it. I had to stop, because I was like invested into that world. I was like, oh my God, I was having heart palpitations. But although the series was really good, it made me really realize, like, this stuff happens in real life. Like, it may not be talked about, but it happens in real life. And it's sad. And I hate that for anybody who has to go through something like that. But it was really, really good. And so then the next three books was Boss Divas, King Divas, and Queen Divas. Yeah, it was a really good series, but Mama had to stop reading it. I couldn't do it. I was like, and all of the people that I know from Memphis that has told me stories about Memphis, I thought the stories I heard from being from the city that I'm from was rough. And I mean, it is rough, but it's a different type of rough. It was just a good series. We're just gonna leave it at that. It was a really good series, but it was DNF'd. And so the series that I am going to pick up, back up reading for sure, is the Throne of Glass series. And I am going to read the last 2 books simply because my coworker, she basically was like, you need to read it again. Don't let my feelings and my emotions get in the way of a good book. And she's right. So I'm gonna pick that back up, and then I might venture back to ACOTAR. IDK my BFF Jill, not sure. That might be like a book that I use when I'm in a reading slump. Maybe not. I don't know. Comment below and tell me if I should pick back up ACOTAR and read Nessa's story. Because right now, it's a big no. A big no. But anywho, thanks so much for joining me today, guys. That is it for today. I look forward to talking to you guys in my next video.